Thank you very much, and Jen, thank you for having me here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So a little bit about me. I'm a mortgage broker. I've been a mortgage broker for 25 years. Jen, I've known you for a long, long time. Started selling real estate when I turned 18. Got my real estate license back then. Quickly got my mortgage broker's license at the same time as well, a few years later. And when I started that job, we had to fax applications. Yeah, we didn't even have, we had computers obviously, but the banks weren't communicating with us that way. I had a client just recently tell me, Chad, I want you to fax me an application. How do I fax something now? I didn't actually remember. It took a little while. So I run as a team, so my mortgage shop is a little bit different than most mortgage shops. So there's myself, which I love coming up doing this. I love strategy. I love puzzle. Then I have a residential underwriter, I have a commercial underwriter, and several support staff. So very much like you guys run teams, especially here at Remax, I do the same thing in the mortgage brokerage world, which is very, very different. I'm just not a lone wolf. So Jenna gave me a pretty tight timeline. I could talk all day. But I wanted to quickly talk about how do you prep your clients to talk about mortgages. And a lot of newer realtors, especially newer realtors, are scared to bring it up and are scared to put the brakes on a client. You want to get them in the house, let's get showing and let's jump in. You put an offer in, especially these multiple offers now, and the clients aren't prepared. And realtors bring me a client and say, Chad, I got 24 hours to get a mortgage. I can't even talk to this client yet, let alone get their docs and that kind of stuff. So my team members are myself, my brother Christopher Robinson, Amber, and Barry is our commercial representative. So when should you ask for proof of a pre-approval? Well, you can cut it off. And I say proof. This is a big key. The big difference between successful realtors that are doing a ton of volume and people that are struggling is they're actually being hard on their client on this aspect. It's not, are you pre-approved? The client says yes. Just show it to me. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, what documentation do you have? Let me talk to your financial professional, whether it's a broker or a bank, and say, what are they pre-approved for? And I say, 200,000, 500,000, or whatever, and you probe a little bit. You'll realize that a lot of customers have just gone to something like this. So there's pre-approval versus pre-qualification. This is my app. And I'll show you. This is basically a pre-qualification. Takes about a minute for somebody to go through, and if somebody goes online, they can go on and get a pre-qualification. So if a customer, a lot of times, customers will think this is a pre-approval. So it's a pretty cool thing. You guys can download it. It's free. It gives you a pretty good plan, and there's a really interesting part. This actually includes basement suite. So how much is your down payment? So people will ask, 50 grand. Where's it coming from? This app doesn't ask where it's coming from, right? Website doesn't ask where it's coming from. A lot of money coming from overseas, which causes problems. These are kind of self-explanatory. Ready to release. And then this is a big one. People will say, okay, if you're employed, if you're self-employed, what's your income? Well, if you ask everybody in this room, you say, what's your income? A lot of people will say it's 50 grand, 80 grand, 200, whatever. But that's not what the banks think your income is. The customers have a very different view of what their income versus what the banks think it is. So this at $510,000, right? That's the maximum purchase price. So most buyers would do something like this. Tell their realtor, I'm pre-approved. Now, are they pre-approved?
No.
Not at all, right? They're kind of, but not really. So the difference is when you walk into a branch, most customers, or they go onto the RBC website or that kind of thing, and they do a quick pre-approval, they'll lock the rate. They can say you're locked in at 2.95 or whatever, and you can buy $510,000. And they go shopping. And then they get an offer, and they pull their credit and say, oh my God, your credit's 550. You're beating score. Or you're self-employed, or you haven't filed your income tax. Or, I'm sorry, I just got the job last week, and you're still on probation, and that totally screws up your deal. So, the difference between a pre-qualification, which is what we just did, and a pre-approval is that pre-qualification is just quick income, there's no credit check, there's no down payment. If there's money coming from overseas, which is something I'm seeing a lot of lately, mom, dad, family members are giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to help bridge that down payment gap, but there's no trace of it. Especially from some of the Middle Eastern countries, it comes from friend to friend to friend to you. Yeah, the banks here will, they go ballistic on that. And in particular, there's no credit checks. So working with a mortgage broker in particular, but even some really diligent bankers, will go through pull a full credit check, they'll get all the documents. So 3 months of bank statements, employment letters, pay stubs, the full kimono. So when we give somebody pre-approval, and I tell you guys they're good to go for 510, they're good to go for 510. You're not going to get the offer and say, oh, I'm sorry, I need more time for financing, or I need more of this. So when you're choosing a mortgage professional, push them on it, push your clients on it. It makes a really, really big difference. And unfortunately, a lot of offers now are unconditional. So pre-approval, we're full checks, full underwrite. I know Jenna really wanted me to talk about some closing costs. And she's going to go through with you this whole closing cost worksheet that she did. And it's fantastic. Not enough realtors take the time to go through this with their clients. So then us as finance professionals get the clients and they say, what do you mean I got to account for all these fees? Nobody told me. And they're stretching to get down payment. They're right up to here with their down payment. So the two things I see a lot of people miss when they're talking about it is property tax adjustments and interest adjustments. And a lot of people say, what the heck are those? So property tax adjustments are basically if the current seller has prepaid the taxes for the whole year, the buyer has to refund that amount to the seller on closing. Depending on the time of year, this becomes an issue. So if you're buying in January, it's probably not as much of an issue, but if you're buying in June, it's halfway through the year, it can be, especially for some of the bigger price homes, this is $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 adjustment. And if they're a young first-time home buyer coming into buying these, they don't have an extra $5,000 to kick in for the taxes, or they haven't planned for it. Even if the bank is paying it, the bank's going to pay the next year's taxes, not the current year. Does everybody kind of understand what I'm getting at there? Sometimes it's if you have to jump in questions. And then the other thing is the interest adjustment. So most mortgages are the opposite of rent. Right? Rent you're prepaying, you're paying in advance. If you pay December 1st rent, it's for the month of December. A mortgage, if you pay December 1st mortgage payment, it's actually for the month of November. It's always in arrears, right? It's in backwards. So if you're doing a monthly December 1st or January 1st kind of payment, but you close on, let's say, the 20th of the month, there's a 10 days, 10, 11 days adjustment. So you'll actually pay the interest for those days. Then the next payment would be, let's say we're closing January 1st. We were closing like December 20th, but your payment would be your first payment would actually be February 1st. So there's actually an adjustment date that you'd pay the interest from December 20th to January 1st. So on a bigger house, again, this could be a couple of $1,000s, depending on how big the mortgage is. So customers don't really plan for it. A lot of realtors don't tell their customers for it. And if they're 5% down and they're just stretching to get in there, those things can make a big difference. Now, we go through with our customers all the time. A lot of people don't. It's just a conversation to ask with the client. Have you talked about your interest adjustment? Have you talked about the tax adjustment? And unfortunately, with tax adjustments in particular, you don't know till the lawyers have gone through and you're a week before closing. Because most of the lawyers are waiting right to the end for the other lawyers giving them the statement of adjustments and going through everything. So that's another note to push the lawyers to say, hey, have you got your draft statement of adjustments? Have you talked to the other side? Is there a tax adjustment coming? So they're not scrambling the day of closing saying, I need another $3,000, mom, dad, help me. No. I know, Jenna, we're pretty short today. Was there any, I think that was the only thing I had. So if you have any questions for me and my team, it's bestinterest.ca, our phone number, I have some cards. I do deep dives on anything. We do a lot of private lending, a lot of commercial lending. Everybody can do the government client that works with great credit scores and good down payment, but we really specialize in the unique and the weird. It's when you're doing it long enough, right? You like the challenges. And Jen?
Does commercial lending often entail getting environmental assessments done?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Do we need an environmental assessment on commercial lending? It depends the type of commercial. If it's like a mixed-use apartment building, main floor commercial with a few apartments above, probably not. If it's an office or anything else, absolutely. Okay. If you have any commercial questions, fire an email through. I love commercial. I find it easier to get people approved in a 12-unit building than a fourplex, because the weight of the approval is more on the building and less on the customer.